Hey guys, welcome to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. I'm Devin.
And I'm Joe.
And this is a show where we talk about all things Taylor Swift.
That's right. This is a show where two friends finally get to let their dedication to the most awarded female singer ever, Taylor Swift, fly.
We'll be discussing everything from song breakdowns, fan Taylor news, and our insane fan theories. Not fan news. Well, actually, speaking of fan news, I mean, would you call Olivia Rodrigo a fan?
I would probably say she might be a bigger fan than we are at this point.
Probably at this point. Well, if I feel like if you're alive right now, you know that Olivia Rodrigo dropped her debut album, Sour.
I feel like Swifties will give us a little bit of a break if we want to talk just for the beginning of this episode, just for a little bit about
Indulge
Sour.
us.
Indulge us about Taylor Swift's daughter.
That's my baby, and I'm proud.
Dude, this album's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So, you were texting me about it, just like popping off, and I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet because I was, doing a move. And as soon as I did listen, I listened to the whole thing straight, and then I just texted you, and I'm like, wow.
Dude, she encompasses like a lot of everything we love on this podcast. Like we talked about it extensively. We were like, wow, we can really hear not only the Taylor Swift influences in a lot of the like lyrics and the way that she writes things, and clearly in One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, which 13, come on, Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. But Lord, even you mentioned that. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, I hear that here, and here.
Yep. It has such a Lorde influence too. And it's crazy because I feel like across the board, I have not heard a single person say this album sucks. So many people that are not Taylor Swift fans who happen to maybe be Lorde fans, like my boyfriend. He's not the biggest Taylor Swift fan. He likes some songs here and there, but he loves Lorde. And I told him to listen to this album. He's like, it is so good. I'm like, put some respect on her name. Yes, it is so good. You have taste.
Honestly, it feels so weird because I'm like very cynical with this stuff, and I'm not, full disclosure, I'm not very receptive to new things. I've been like, if our top 50 top 10 Taylor Swift ever songs, it was an indication. I like classic Taylor, I like old Taylor. I've been listening to the same Fall Out Boy for 15 years. Like I like what I like, and it's very rare that a brand new artist just like creeps her way into my regular listening schedule. So when Driver's License came out, I was like, this is really good. And she has that Taylor Swift connection, but like, is it really gonna pan out? Like, is she really gonna be good, or is this just like the hype around the song? Because there was a lot of hype around the song, independent of how good it was. Like, it was a phenomenal song, but there was an SNL skit about it. Like, there was like all of this like drama around the song, and I was like, I feel like it's just hyped up about the drama. I don't know if she like has anything else. And then this album came out, and I'm just like, all right, she might be here to stay. Like,
we have no choice but to stand.
Honestly, like everything down from her attitude, the way that she's promoting this album. I don't know if you saw, she's been sending Sour Patch Kids to people, which I'm in love with.
So I saw this thing on TikTok, and this one guy was like, I have a theory. The whole reason that she's pairing with Sour Patch Kids is that she has, on her Instagram, she was releasing a bunch of snippets of songs, and there was a lot of really like happy songs, and none of them were included on this album. And he was like, that was so weird. And they were all wiped, obviously, because of this new album and promotion. He's like, what if the first album is sour and the next one is sweet? Like Sour Patch Kids, sour, sweet, gone, or whatever. So
I would love that.
So he's like, I think there's gonna, and she is Taylor Swift's daughter, so who's to rule out another album coming soon?
I believe that too, because I feel like that's become a new thing, or at least like it feels like it might be the trend in a lot of like pop artists like now, like doing that duology album. Kelsey Ballerini did that last year, where in March she released Kelsey, and then September she released Ballerini, which is just Kelsey, but like all different versions of it. And it's
like a B-side.
It's like, yeah, it's like a B-side, and Taylor with Folklore Evermore. I can easily see that being a thing, especially because, and I was going to comment on this, I was a little disappointed that she doesn't take the cue from Taylor. There's only 11 songs on this album.
And it's like 36 minutes. It's
Yeah,
such a quick listen.
This is like an EP. Like after listening to Taylor and being such a Taylor fan and having 2 17-song albums back to back, 3 17-song albums back to back, and Reputation, like all, like the shortest album I think Taylor has ever put out is like what, like 11 songs was her debut, but then she had like 4 bonus tracks that came out, which I don't know if that's the case with this, but I can definitely see that being the case. And I mentioned that to you, I think too. I was like, I really like the song, but I particularly love Brutal and Good For You because I think her angry singing and her angry songs are more enthralling than her sad songs. And I can listen to Brutal and Good For You over and over and over again, but the sad songs don't really hit that same high for me. I don't know. I think you were the exact reverse, though. Like, I mean, obviously you like Brutal and Good For You.
Yeah, those are obviously great songs, as you know, I do have taste. But songs like Traitor, Happier, but 2 songs that have kind of been like creeping up for me. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, they're good. But Jealousy, Jealousy is such an underrated song. That song, Favorite Crime, like I really enjoy the back half of it because I think as a big Lorde fan as well, those songs are very reminiscent. Like we were talking offline, but Hope That You're Okay, the entire bridge just sounds like a Lorde song.
Same, Jealousy feels very Lorde in a lot of parts too. And I think like we even mentioned, like you can see the influences as you go through the album, because Brutal, I mentioned to you, I was like, Brutal is like right off of Reputation. You were like, no.
No, it was off of her unreleased 6th studio album, The Rock Karma.
Which honestly, that's it. Like that song is like a rock jam, and it feels like it is off an unreleased Taylor Swift album.
Yeah.
And because you even get in that song, and I mentioned this right before we started recording because we can't stop talking about this album, you get her saying like, God, it's brutal out here. And that's exactly like something that would happen in Reputation, or that era at least, where like Taylor just stops all the music and just says something.
Well, that's Sour.
I was gonna say that's a pretty good segue. We brought it back to Taylor. So Devin, what are we talking about on this typical Tuesday night?
So we are actually going back to the song breakdown. So we will be revisiting the latest off of Evermore, which is No Body, No Crime, featuring Haim. And so do you want to just tell us a little bit about this song?
So we have more context around this song than any other song, I think, because this song tells a fantastic story. And we finally have a true female country song. And I do put female in there for a specific reason. Song out of Taylor Swift. Arguably the first one since what? Like Picture to Burn? Or something. Like it's been a while since we've had like a good tale of female revenge. But instead of just going out with all your best friends, girl is going to murder a dude. And that's personal growth, and we're here for it.
Don't take no messiness. Just get it done.
Well, she does know how to clean up a crime scene. The song details a girl, we'll call her Taylor, and her friendship with a woman named Esty. Esty believes her husband is cheating on him, but when she confronts him about her, dude just freaking murders her and gets away with it. No problem. And then just starts openly dating his mistress. Taylor doesn't really care for this. Isn't fond of this decision. And then just starts decides to it's time to put that boating license to good use, and just up and murders Esty's widower. There's a lot of just up and murdering going on in this 4 minutes. And thanks to Essie's sister confirming her alibi, she gets away scot-free by blaming it on the new mistress, who just got a hella life insurance policy. This is Taylor Swift's ode to true crime TV and podcasts that we know she is obsessed with. And we even came full circle with the Crime Junkie podcast doing an episode dedicated to this very case on April Fool's Day. Not to promote other podcasts on our podcast, but go give it a listen. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, and I mean, she talks about the process behind this song, and she says that she was very influenced by true crime podcasts, and she loved, the name Esty, so she wrote this song, and she texted her, and she's like, "Hey, what's your favorite restaurant? Just curious." And she's like,
Oh,
"Olive Garden," and she's
that's
like,
so weird.
"Okay, cool, thanks." It's just like, okay, what? And then later she's like, okay, no, so I wrote this song and I really want you to be on it, because at that point, Haim and Taylor have toured together. They've, performed, but they've never actually done a song together. So this was the first collab with the two artists. So they've been, best friends. She was really excited to have them on the song. Danielle and Esty are actually doing vocals. Danielle has a little snippet later in the song, she was with me, dude.
And then like they hit us with the 1-2 punch, because the second time she immediately collaborated with him again with Gasoline, which we talked about in the intro of another episode that I don't remember which one exactly. But in Gasoline, Taylor gets a full verse instead of just background vocals. So maybe learn from that, Tay, and like maybe give these women that you love so much more than he was with me, dude.
So funny. It's so true, but it's so funny.
It's so bad. Like
Misogyny, Taylor. Love you.
it's still that's an interesting story about Olive Garden, because like I don't know about you, but if I was Haim, I can't imagine your
Well,
favorite.
it might have been favorite chain restaurant. I think she said favorite chain
Gotcha.
restaurant, because that
Gotcha.
makes a lot more sense than like choosing Olive Garden as your favorite. No, it was definitely favorite chain.
Even so, that's still really funny, because like Olive Garden, I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum about this album and this era where Taylor Swift is great at taking like ridiculous words and working them into a cadence that makes it sound normal in a song, which is a ridiculous feat, honestly. But to be able to work Olive Garden into a song, like, could you imagine if Essie was just like, Texas Roadhouse?
Wasn't there Tuesday
Or
night at Texas Roadhouse. I had her job for anyway.
at Bertucci's or anywhere. Like it's just
Applebee's
so
or
funny.
anywhere. Applebee's could work.
Applebee's could work. I feel like I'd like Applebee's better. I've never had a good experience
Well,
at
I
Olive
feel
Garden.
like I feel like Olive Garden is like the classiest chain restaurant I can kind of think of. Like, what if she was like, I really like, I don't know, what's a Fridays,
Chili's.
Friendlies. Welcome.
I found God in this Chili's.
Oh, I just can't. But yes, I feel like Olive Garden is like the classiest one. Like, at least you can get like a nice bottle of wine, and they talk about that in the song Tuesday night dinner and a glass of wine. But
That's a fair point. And I'm like I said, like Taylor nailed it and made it work really well. The one thing that's interesting is a quick theory that I've come to fully believe. I don't know where you fall on it, but it is theorized that ST makes another appearance later in Evermore, in the song "Right Where You Left Me" as the ghost that haunts the restaurant, the Olive
mm-hmm.
Garden, notoriously haunted, where the line "Help, I'm still at the restaurant, sitting in a corner I haunt." So the theory goes that Esty died, but she still waits for Taylor every Tuesday night at the Olive Garden, even though, she's dead and all.
Sad. Very sad.
So do you want to get into what was your first impression of this song?
So we both had the same first impression that it was hands down. We were like, this is uncomparable, best song on the album. We both instantly gravitated towards it because compared to the rest of the album, this was the most, bop of a song that we had. You can, kind of, and I wouldn't say dance to it, but it's dancing to murder. But
You can
it's
like
some
bop to it though.
exactly. You can groove along to it. It wasn't something like happier, which immediately comes afterwards and just stabs you in the heart. So that's what we thought. And we both also in what?
One thing, I just want to make this note how much you are obsessed with Sour, because you said it's unlike Happier, which is on Sour, and the song you're thinking of is Happiness.
Uh too many sad songs that are
Called Happy.
called happy.
My friend texted me about like she sends me a bunch of horror movie recommendations like every day, and she goes, "Watch the movie Happy. It's the saddest movie I've ever seen." And I was like, "Well, with if you follow Taylor Swift or any of her like offspring."
Well,
I
yeah,
guess.
because Taylor Swift has Happiness, Olivia Rodrigo has Happier, and so
Ed
does Ed
Sheeran.
Sheeran.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran has Happier, which is one of my favorite Ed Sheeran songs. Yeah. If there's happy in the title, guys, go away.
Depressed.
Just hide. It's gonna make you cry. Anyway,
Therapy,
no body, no
therapy.
cry.
So, the story is very gripping. And when we first listened, it's instantly Carrie Underwood Church Bells. Like that was
Mhm.
the instant vibe of the story where the chorus's implications change with each verse. And so
Mhm.
I think this one does it a little bit less up until the very end. But Church Bells, if you haven't listened to it, is the story where it's a very good song, highly recommend, that it follows this couple and the chorus remains the same, but the implications because of what happened kind of change.
I think in that one, the first chorus is about church bells at a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
The second chorus is at church bells at church after she's getting beaten by her
Yeah.
husband, and then the third is church bells at her husband's funeral.
Mm-hmm. We love murder.
That's why we indicated this as like a female country song, because you
Mm-hmm.
get so many great female revenge stories in country songs like this. And while it definitely is that ode to true crime and everything, it feels like it's an ode to the traditional country woman revenge song.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we really haven't gotten from Taylor, like you said, unless we're talking about something like Picture to Burn.
Mm-hmm.
But that was way back in the day. This is something kind of bringing her full circle, a little bit back to country Taylor. So those were our thoughts then.
What's
What do
really
you,
funny, a quick anecdote, sorry. What's
mhm.
really funny is I remember in high school seeing an early meme about country songs where it was like the first picture was Taylor Swift, and it was, if you cheat on me, I'm going to burn all your pictures. And then the second one was, I think it was Carrie Underwood that said, if you cheat on me, I'm going to break your car or destroy your car or whatever. And the third one was a girl I didn't know at the time because I wasn't big into country. And the line was, if you cheat on me, I'm going to murder you. And I remember thinking, well, at least Taylor isn't that bad.
Oh, if only we knew. Murder, murder.
So, what are our thoughts now? So, since our very first listen, this song has fallen rather dramatically. I think there's a lot of reasons to this. The song is a little unrelatable, I hope. Uh, and like we've said, and we've harped on a lot in this podcast, Taylor songs have such great relatability because they remind us of moments in our lives or help us get through moments in our lives. But this song about murder is hopefully extremely unrelatable. Unless I guess you or a friend were cheated on, but hopefully that's just a daydream scenario.
It's just a tad bit unrelatable, nothing crazy.
And it is interesting because like I actually had this moment pretty recently where I had like a relatively really bad day, and I just put on folklore just as like comfort music, and
Mm.
it took me back to like a weirdly comforting time, and it was just very nice and comfortable. But this song was like, I wouldn't listen to this in that moment. So like it's a bop of a song, but like it's narrative based, so it doesn't really like help you get into a mood of anything, I guess, unless you're just like murdering infidelity. uh
I feel like if you're angry, maybe listen to the song, but compared to the rest of Evermore, it does
Mhm.
not fit that kind of melancholy vibe to it.
It's weird because it's still like, I still think it fits Evermore
Thematically,
aesthetically,
yeah.
thematically, because like we said, and like my favorite thing that we said about Evermore, the favorite theory that I have is that Willow is the base of the album, and every branch is a different ending.
Mm-hmm.
And this song is clearly an ending that ends in
Mur-
murder for multiple people. But I think it fits into that theme perfectly. and the sound still, it doesn't like, it's not jarring against the rest of the album, which I think is great. But it's just, yeah, it's just like exactly, it's just hard to relate to and get you in a mood.
It also just has a little bit of the Betty phenomenon, a best song that was, it just became overplayed. It's funny because they're both, kind of country-esque, like more country influence than the other songs, which I think is just a coincidence. I don't think that's the reason why, but because it was so good, you play it over again and then you're like, I don't need to listen to this. I need to listen to other stuff. And then it just kind of falls in the rankings.
And I will say, even for Betty, like I think Betty at least stayed higher. And this is gonna sound like a dig on this song. I can't express enough that this is a phenomenal song. But Betty, I feel like, had a more depth to it, and we'll get into that when we talk about our favorite lyrics or lack thereof. Because Betty, like, there was still a story behind it. There was a lot to pull out of it, but this song didn't have a lot to pull out of it.
Well, it was still a story you could relate to.
And that, yeah, with Betty, that was a huge thing too. Like, yeah, like there were so many lines in Betty where we're like, oh, I felt that.
Yeah.
And Nobody No Crime, it's very, unless you're like, oh, I have
my voting license. I know how to clean.
I was gonna say, like, it doesn't generally lead to like good quotable or screamable lyrics. Like, who is screaming, I've cleaned enough houses to know how to cover up a scene.
To know how to cover up a scene.
Like, I'll scream it when I'm singing it, but I'm never like, it never pops into my head. Like, they just aren't like that snappy cleverness that have been in the last 2, maybe even 3 albums that we're just like really accustomed to. They're not like, I guess, marketable lyrics, I would say, because like we said this about Willow with come back stronger than a 90s trend. Like, she wrote that in there. So that would be like the title of something. It would be a very marketable lyric. It's hard to find them in this song unless it's just the He Did It chapter or something like that. But like, even that, like, it's not unique or anything like that. It's not a dig. It's not a bad thing. Together, every line of this song makes up a phenomenal story. But for the purposes of a Taylor Swift song, it's just very different from the norm, which made it fall in the rankings. And that said, we did have it number 1 in the rankings the first time we heard it. But before we even put up our official rankings, it fell to number 2, which is still respectable. But ultimately, after spending a lot of time with the album, it ended up, I think, at 11 for me and 12 for you. We agreed.
Yeah. Rare.
So let's talk about the lyrics. I don't want to say let's dive into lyrics that jumped out, because there really aren't any.
Yeah, it just, like you said, it all fits cohesively into the story, which I think the story is something we can definitely go into. But lyrically, there's nothing that, when we talk about lyrics that dived out to us, or dive into lyrics that jumped out to us, it's things that we kind of like stick with us for a bit and make us think. But I think the song is good. Story is better than the lyrics we could potentially pull out.
I think the way to say it is that the story sticks with us, not individual lyrics.
Yes.
Stick to us. So like, that's what I think is the big thing about this song. And one of the things I do like about it, like, I feel like it feels like we're ragging on the song, and I just need to keep reminding you guys, we love the song. It's fantastic. But the one thing I want to talk about is that the song just does feel unique, especially in the last 2 albums. It doesn't, like we said, it doesn't have any couplets or marketable / quotable lines, but it's actually really refreshing to get just a strictly story song, like something we don't have to dive into. Like, for me, the song kind of really evokes the idea of a great summer blockbuster style movie. Like, it's extremely, like, I remember when I saw, what was it, like Transformers 2 or something, not even Transformers 1, like Transformers 2, where I was like, big dumb monster go boom, but like was just like extremely entertained. Like, it wasn't anything like I was gonna be like dive into, oh my gosh, what did he mean by this line was so like thought-provoking, right? It wasn't any of that. It was just, this is 2 hours of fun and entertainment, and I feel like that's what Nobody No Crime is.
Exactly.
Without the
pure
romance.
pure entertainment in a song, like something you don't really have to think about too much, the meaning behind. It's just a fun song. And sometimes I feel like Taylor Swift really doesn't go into that, just like a fun story song. So
Especially in the last one, like we've had multiple episodes for folklore now that we have done a whole episode dedicated line by line, breaking down every single word basically in the song.
mhm.
This one is just, it's extremely digestible. Almost all of the information and context is just right there in the song, and there's very little digging needed to be done to get the most out of it.
Besides
Like
the graves.
you do well, you don't even have to dig a grave because she just throws them right in the ocean.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Just throws them right in the ocean. That's what you got that boating license for. The one thing I think that's interesting that I can pull up is if you listen to our last episode, Tolerate It, where we broke down that song, we talked about how that song had a lot of pull from Rebecca, the story by Daphne du Maurier.
Mhm.
I definitely butchered that name because I just did it all off of memory. But if you read that book, you know that one of the this might be a bit of a spoiler, so if you want to skip ahead, but I believe one of the there was a dead body disposed in the exact same way of throwing it off a boat in that book. So
Mhm.
you can see more of that coming through in the next song right after Tolerate It.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, like, is there anything about the story that you really want to dive into, or anything lyrically? Like, I'm sorry, guys. This one's kind of tough because there's just not.
The only thing I would say is hashtag girl boss.
Honestly, like, there are some things that I like. Like, I know for me personally, I just love She Was With Me, Dude.
Mhm.
Like, it's such a weird line to love, but like I do love She Was With Me, Dude. Like, the way it's delivered, and I said this about Olivia Rodrigo's Brutal. Like, I love when plain lines are delivered in such a sassy way like that.
The inflection is very prominent on this song.
I think what I said, I don't know if I said this on air, but I remember when I was talking about Brutal, I was like, I love hearing people say things in a song where I can picture how they said it. So,
Mhm.
like with Brutal, when she says, God, it's brutal out here, like I
Mhm.
can picture exactly how she said it, the sass in her voice, and I can picture She Was With Me, Dude. Like, I can picture exactly how she said and delivered that line. And for me, I just think that's incredible when you can like give a visual image. You can see someone saying something to you just from hearing it. I think that is commendable.
Yeah.
One thing I do like too, and this was something I noticed immediately, was when I first heard this song, is good thing my daddy made me get a boating license when I was 15. I don't think this was intentional, but she did recover the song When Daddy Let Me Drive, like way back.
Mm.
And there is like a part of that song where she is taught how to drive a boat from her dad. So I think, like, granted, she didn't write that song, she covered it,
Yeah.
but it is like a nice callback, even if I don't know if it was 100% intentional.
Mhm. Who knows? Everything with Taylor is intentional.
I'm just trying to look through these lyrics and see if there's anything we can pull out of them. I like Infidelity, I think, is one of those hard words to fit into a song that she nails in here, and it smells like infidelity is
Mhm.
interesting. That I my Merlot on his mouth, like that's very Carrie Underwood. What's the that that's my wine stain on his shirt or something. What is
Mm.
the Carrie Underwood like? You wouldn't know Carrie Underwood lyrics.
No.
um I'm trying
But
to there's
even just you talked about it on another song, maybe it was Tolerate It, but the alliteration to Merlot on the mouth, jewelry on the joint account.
mm, that's a good point too. I love
Mhm.
that. Yeah, like that's the thing, is like we talked about how this, like, there isn't that much to dive into, and it's not like, again, it's not like it's a basic song. She's still a phenomenal songwriter, and there's still some interesting things in there. I like, for some reason, this feels like a weird motif throughout the album, but I pass his house and his truck has got some brand new tires. Why do you keep talking about tires and trucks,
Mm.
Taylor? Like, you really brought, like, from Tis the Damn Season, you got muddy truck tires. Like, there's a lot of trucks and tires on this album.
Her country is showing.
So much
Mm-hmm.
so. Yeah, like again, but other than that, like I'm trying to think big life insurance policy with it was delivered fantastic. But there's just not a lot else to pull out. I like that was a really good Merlot on my mouth, jewelry on our joint account. That was a great pull.
Thank you.
I I think I mean do you want to teach me about the music?
Yeah, the music isn't, too crazy. Obviously we know the iconic sirens in the beginning that indicate that crime just occurred with Himes. He did it layered over top. But when you listen to it, it sonically appears that they're trying to like emulate kind of like the part of the movie where it's like you're kind of wondering how I got here. I gotta go back and tell you, and it like emulates this like kind of like going backwards. Like if you watched Hamilton the musical with Satisfied, they kind of like do like a little skip, and it makes it seem like it's reversing. So it has like this little bit of like glitching, like synth, just like the tiniest little bit. There's some piano, and it seems like they're going back to tell you this story. Like it starts with the sirens, and you're like, where is this going? And then all of a sudden it just pulls you in with the mandolin, and just very country vibes straight off the bat. We get the mandolin, the harmonica, and the piano. So with the harmonica, it's another Betty tie-in, very country vibes. We have the lap steel guitar, acoustic guitar, bass, drums, organ, electric guitar, piano, and synth, and obviously not Jack Round, but Haim Round vocals. We
Oh
have
my
Danielle and
gosh.
Esty in the background. The song's in G minor, which is why it sounds a little bit darker. It's not really like, I think he did it. And, it has that grimmer feel to it. Very simple vocals. There's just a little bit of echo and reverb on her voice just to kind of give it that depth. But the harmonies in the chorus are pretty good. I think it might be like a trio of harmonies, if I'm correct, but definitely just stacked harmonies to kind of add to it and add the kind of ominous, like it sounds like there's just like a jury of people out there like I think he did it, but I just can't prove it. And especially with, first it's Esty saying it, then it's Taylor saying it, and then eventually it's the mistress saying it plus Taylor. So I think, like we touched on, the inflections in the song are one of my favorite parts. No, nobody, no crime. And then he reports his missing
Oh
wife.
yeah. That's a good one because I like you really get
Mm-hmm.
that country come out.
His truck has got some brand new tires. Like you kind of like hear just a little bit of twang, but not enough to be inauthentic.
I love that too because the tires like it feels like it's like the end like it very like wraps around almost. His truck has got some brand new tires and it just like kind of like fades
Mm-hmm.
off. I like that.
Yeah. And then for the exposition part of the song, like the bridge where she talks about good thing my daddy made me get a boating license, all that stuff. Most of the instruments are stripped. It gets a little simpler, just the bass drum kind of in the background for some kind of beat to follow, an acoustic guitar, just like a little bit of electric, but nothing crazy, mostly just like kind of runs. And then maybe like a bass note of a piano, like a chord or something, just very simple, like one time and it lets it ring. But the next chorus, it strips it down even further. It's still simple. Then it's just that electric guitar. There's no drums, so there's no percussion in the background. Mandolin and piano, just very country.
Ooh.
And of course, for the big reveal that, I I think he did it, but I just can't prove it. And then she thinks I did it, but she just can't prove it. And then all the instruments come back in for the big reveal. And at the very end, I wasn't giving up until the day he died, and she just whispers, "Die." And you hear like these little crickets chirping. So I'm figuring like you're out on the boat and you just hear like the water, like the little crickets chirping, or like in the woods or something. Seems very ominous, just kind of like spooky.
It really reminds me of a CSI episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially like you mentioned with the sirens in the beginning where I feel like every CSI episode, like the camera pans down on the crime scene, you hear the sirens in the background, and then you start to get the chatter of the, all right, so what happened here? What's going on? And you get like all of that, and then it fades into more stuff. And you even get, like you said, I loved you said jury coming out and saying like he did it. Like it feels very courtroom at a
Mm-hmm.
point. It feels very reportery, like following someone outside of a courthouse saying like, do you think he did it? Do you think he
Yeah.
did it? And then the even better, the chirping at the end where she got away with it, everything's fine. And that's the end, just like the credits produced by Dick Wolf. If she had ended it.
Dun dun.
Oh my god, that would have been great. But that's, I mean, yeah, I feel like the lyrics, I mean, the lyrics and the music kind of really emulate off of each other. One word, simple.
Yeah, if anything, like this is a song that I could definitely see being featured on some kind of TV or movie, or
Mm.
I've seen a lot of fan edits with just like making your own music video to it. Like it seems like it's very much a thematic song that something can be created out of it. But in terms of listener relatability, there's not too much there.
I think, we did in doing some research for a future episode. It is very single driven. Like it was a single on this album, which actually surprised me because I don't feel like I heard too much about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it definitely feels like a single. But like, what's interesting is usually songs that Taylor puts out, at least since Red, that feel like a single have been like, we are never ever getting back together, shake it off, like look what you made me do. And me, like, if this is the song of the album that feels like a single,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how she's going to do it going forward, I'm more than happy with it. Because this, while this feels like a single, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like overtly different than the rest of the album. Like it still meshes, it still fits with the theme of the album. It doesn't feel out of place.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like a single. And me, we are never ever getting back together, shake it off. Like all
Mm-hmm.
of those songs, they're so different.
Poppy and
Poppy, like
radio
repetitive.
driven.
And I will say this song is a bit repetitive too, because it do get the he did it, like
Mm-hmm.
all throughout the song. It's relatively simple, like all of the other singles are, but there's a lot more going on, and it's just more fun, I feel, than those other singles. So if this is the future of Taylor Swift singles, now that she has control over releasing her albums more, I'm here for it. Let's go. This and Willow, great singles. We don't talk about the other ones. But yeah, I mean, I think I was going to say anything to say in closing, but it sounded like everything
Yeah.
that was all in closing. So if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a review and a 5-star rating on Apple. Tell a friend about us. Let them know that we exist.
And make sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see our beautiful faces.
If you have a suggestion for an episode, drop us a comment or a DM. We love hearing from you guys.
And aside from that, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.
Come back.
We'll be here.